welcome to Storytime with Judy. Our book today is Axel Annie by Robin Pulver and illustrated by Ted Arnold. Well, Axel Annie drives the school bus, and every time it snows, the superintendent calls and asks her, does she think that she can make it up the mountain? And she tells him, of course she can. The other bus driver doesn't like it because he wants a snow day. Let's find out what kind of scheme he and a guy that owns the new ski resort come up with to keep Axel Annie from getting up that mountain. In the town of Burskyville, the luckiest kids rode on Axel Annie's school bus. Axel Annie did magic tricks. She told jokes and sang silly songs. The kids couldn't wait to see her every morning and hear the cheerful call, "Get up on these steps before I leave without you." Winter packed a wallop in Burskyville. Whenever a storm came up, the superintendent of schools, Mr. Solomon, telephoned Axel Annie. "It's nasty out there, Annie," he'd say. "Think you can make it up Tiger Hill?" "If you say no, I'll close the schools. My decision depends on you." Tiger Hill was on Axel Annie's bus route. It was the toughest hill in Burskyville. But Axel Annie's reply was always the same. "Mr. Solomon, do snow plows plow? Do tow trucks tow? Are school buses yellow? Of course, I can make it up Tiger Hill." And she always did. That's why the schools in Burskyville never had a snow day. Shifty Rhodes hated that. Shifty was the nastiest school bus driver in Burskyville. At every meeting of the Grouch and Grump Club, Shifty complained about his job, especially in winter. He grumbled about having to get up early to warm up his bus. He fussed about trucks sloshing slush all over his windshield. He bellyached about boots that made puddles on the bus. "And I never ever get a snow day," he always said, all because of that Axel Annie. One rip-roaring winter morning, Axel Annie's phone rang. "It's a blizzard out there, Annie," the superintendent said. "Think you can make it up Tiger Hill?" "If you say no, I'll close the schools. My decision depends on you." "Mr. Solomon," Axel Annie replied, "do snow plows plow? Do tow trucks tow? Are school buses yellow? Of course I can make it up Tiger Hill." Shifty Rhodes was still in bed. "And now for the school closings," announced his radio. Every town in the 5-county area had closed its schools except for one. "And that's—" "Don't say Burskyville," pleaded Shifty. "Burskyville," said the radio. "All because of Axel Annie," grumbled Shifty. He bundled up and headed for his bus. Axel Annie was already on her way. When Tiger Hill loomed ahead, she called out, "Hold on to your earmuffs." "Gun the engine," shouted the kids. "Put your pedal to the metal." Axel Annie did, and she roared up Tiger Hill past all the ditched vehicles and stranded drivers. At the top she stopped as usual and called back to the snowbound drivers. "Get on up these steps before I leave without you." They rode along with the kids to school, where they telephoned for tow trucks to pull their cars out of the snow. Of course, Shifty Rhodes was in a terrible mood that morning. When the kids on his bus got the least bit noisy, he yelled, "You drive me crazy!" And the kids yelled back, "You're the one that's driving, not us." Shifty was still mad when he ventured out that night to the Grouch and Grump Club. But then a miracle happened. A new member introduced himself. The name's Hell Snow. "Snow's my name and snow's my game." Hell explained that he was the new owner of the Burskyville ski resort. "Business is bad," he grumbled. "I even bought a new snowmaking machine, but who needs it? It just sits on my truck like a bamboozled bump on a blizzard-blasted log. The best days for me should be snow days when kids head for the slopes because school's closed. but the snow-blasted schools here never close. After the meeting, Shifty Rhodes collared Hell Snow. You know why we never get a snow day, he asked. Axel Annie, that's why, and Shifty told Hell all about Axel Annie and Tiger Hill. Snarling snowflakes, exclaimed Hell. There must be something we can do. Maybe there is, said Shifty, with that snowmaking machine of yours. I get your drift, said Hell. Just say the word, and I'll haul my machine over to Tiger Hill. Well, we'll whoop up such a snowstorm there that not even Axel Annie will make it up the hill. Whoop-de-doo, cheered Shifty. The very next Monday morning, Axel Annie's telephone rang. Annie, said Mr. Solomon, it's the storm of the century. Think you can make it up Tiger Hill? If you say no, I'll close the school. My decision depends on you. Mr. Solomon, replied Axel Annie, do snowplows plow? Do tow trucks tow? Are school buses yellow? Of course I can make it up Tiger Hill. Meanwhile, Shifty Rhodes was peering outside into howling whiteness. Yippee, he shouted, and telephoned Hell Snow. No school in its right mind would open today. It's a wing-dinger of a storm, Hell agreed, and my machine will make it 10 times as bad on Tiger Hill. Axel Annie will never make it up. Meet me there and watch the fun for yourself. Icy snow stung Shifty's face as he plodded to his bus. Finally, he revved up the engine and drove into the storm. Shifty's bus slithered and slid its way to Tiger Hill. Suddenly, Shifty caught sight of something in the road. He leaned on the brakes, but the bus skidded and bucked and plowed right into whatever it was. Sled bustin' snowflakes, Shifty, hollered Hell Snow. You clobbered my snowmaking machine. Shifty apologized, but he couldn't feel too bad. Hell Snow's machine had turned Tiger Hill into a monstrous mountain of swirling snow. As Axel Annie's bus approached Tiger Hill, the kids yelled, Yikes! Hold on to your earmuffs, Annie called. Gun the engine, Annie, shouted the kids. Put the pedal to the metal, Axel Annie tried. But near the top of the snowy hill the wheels spun. The engine strained. The bus was stuck. You can do it, Annie, the kids yelled, but for the first time ever, Annie wasn't sure she could. Would the Burskyville schools close after all? Then suddenly the bus seemed to sprout wings. Slowly and gently it glided up, up, up to the top of Tiger Hill. Hooray, shouted the kids. Axel Annie looked around. It wasn't wings that she saw. It was all the stranded drivers that Annie had helped so many times before. Thanks a million, shouted Annie. Now get up on these steps before I leave without you. Then Annie looked again and saw 2 snowmen trudging up the hill, Shifty Rhodes and Hell Snow. When Annie saw the mangled snowmaking machine down below, their whole mean plot came to her in a flash. Axel Annie gunned her engine, but Shifty and Hell looked so miserable she couldn't be mad. Oh, get on up these steps, she called. Before we leave without you, yelled the kids. Shifty Rhodes had to pay all the money in his piggy bank to fix his school bus and the snowmaking machine. Then he skedaddled out of town and got a job on a cruise ship. Hell Snow was sorry he had ever gotten mixed up with Shifty Rhodes. He thought Axel Annie was one humdinger of a woman. In fact, his business doubled when he named his new ski slope after her. Whenever kids headed for that steep and scary slope, they asked each other, Think we can make it down okay? The answer was always the same. Do snowplows plow? Do tow trucks tow? Are school buses yellow? Of course we can make it down Axel Annie's slope, and they usually did. Well, that was such a fun story. Would you like to have Axel Annie as a bus driver? I think she'd be fun, don't you? And she would sure get you where you're going. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe.